Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to master defining relative clauses. Now, I know that sounds like a super dry grammar term, but we are absolutely going to make it practical. How? Well, we're going to step into the shoes of an IT project leader based right in Bratislava, managing an international team. By the end of this session, you're going to see exactly how these tiny connector words are literally the secret to sounding professional, precise, and fluent in your everyday workplace English.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our itinerary for today. We'll start off with the IT project, then cover essential pronouns, look at places and possessions, uncover the omission trick, head to the frequent error clinic, and finally, it'll be your turn.
All right, jumping right into section 1, the IT project, where we'll meet the team and the tools.
To really anchor this grammar in the real world, let's imagine our IT project leader describing their brand new tech team and the software stack they use to get the job done. You know, when you're managing a complex project, you have to specify exactly who is doing what and exactly which tools they're using. Take a look at this quote. Meet the developer who writes the code and the software which we use every day. Listen closely to how those tiny words, who and which, just seamlessly connect the ideas to give us that absolutely essential, defining information about the team. Without them, we just have choppy, disconnected sentences. But with them, you get this smooth, professional flow. These are defining relative clauses in action. They define exactly which developer and exactly which software we're talking about.
Moving on to section 2, essential pronouns and the core rules.
Let's take a slight step back from our narrative to look at the strict mechanics of these pronouns. The foundation here is actually pretty simple. Who is strictly for people. I mean, you wouldn't say the laptop who crashed, right? Which is strictly for things. You definitely wouldn't say the manager which hired me. And then we have that, which acts as your versatile, everyday backup for both people and things in these defining contexts. So you can safely say, the person that called, or the tool that we use. It's incredibly common in spoken English and a great backup to have.
Up next is Section 3, Places and Possessions. We're looking at where and whose.
Because, let's face it, in the real world, our IT leader doesn't just talk about people and software. They also need to describe locations, like server rooms, and who owns what. By adding where for places and whose for possession, you immediately expand your ability to describe complex professional relationships. You aren't just pointing out a building, you're specifying the office where we work. You aren't just talking about a coder, you're identifying the coder whose code is perfect. Whose essentially just replaces his, her, or their to bridge those two ideas together perfectly smoothly. Now for section 4, the omission trick. This is the advanced B1 secret.
All right, we have reached the absolute gold mine for sounding like a native speaker. This is the advanced rule of pronoun omission. Native speakers drop these pronouns all the time, and knowing when you're allowed to do it is a massive milestone in your language learning journey. Here is the 3-step rule. First, identify the relative pronoun, like who, which, or that. Second, check if a new subject, like I, we, she, or the client, follows immediately after it. If yes, the relative pronoun is functioning as the object of the clause. This means there is another subject stepping in right after it, taking charge of the action, so you can simply erase that pronoun right out of the sentence.
Let's look at how this works in practice. On the left, we have the tool that we use, and on the right, the tool we use. Notice that both of these sentences are perfectly correct. But see how we, a brand new subject, comes right after that? Because of this, that becomes entirely optional. The second sentence, the tool we use, well, it just flows so much more naturally in everyday business conversation. It's sharper, it's faster, and it sounds highly proficient.
Okay, section 5, frequent error clinic. Let's avoid those traps.
It is time for our error clinic, where we're going to permanently fix some of the most stubborn, fossilized translation errors that are super common among Central European learners, and specifically our friends in places like Bratislava, where our IT leader lives. So, a massive trap here is treating people like objects. In many Slavic languages, the words for which and who can sometimes map a bit differently than in English. But in English, you must never use which for a person, literally never. The developer which called is a really jarring error to a native ear. You always want to use who or that when talking about people. The correct phrasing here is absolutely the developer who called.
Now, here is another major pitfall, duplicating the subject. Look at this example on the left. The client who he called. This usually happens when you're translating just a bit too literally in your head. The crucial point here is that you cannot duplicate the subject. The relative pronoun already acts as the bridge connecting the client to the action. If the client made the call, you say the client who called. If he called the client, you say the client he called.
Adding both who and he just completely breaks the architecture of the sentence.
And finally, Section 6, your turn, with some quick exercises. We've covered the rules, the tricks, and the traps. Now I want you to actively lock this knowledge in right now with a rapid-fire challenge. Look closely at the IT leader's sentence here. The laptop, which I bought, is fast. Ask yourself about that golden rule from our omission trick. Look at the word directly following which. Is the pronoun here optional or is it mandatory? I'll give you a second to decide.
Yes, you can absolutely delete it. Because the pronoun which is immediately followed by a brand new subject, I, you can confidently drop it. The laptop I bought is fast is the perfect, natural way to express this idea, say in a morning stand-up meeting. Okay, let's try just one more scenario from the office. The manager who hired me is great. Look closely at the word following who. Is it a new subject or is it a verb? Go ahead and make your choice. Can we delete who?
No, you absolutely cannot delete it here. In this specific case, who is the subject performing the action of hiring? The very next word is the verb hired. Because there's no new subject stepping in to take over, deleting who would leave you with the manager hired me is great, which basically causes the entire sentence structure to just collapse. By mastering who, which, and that, and knowing exactly when to drop them, you instantly elevate your professional fluency. It's a real game changer. As you head into your next English conversation, whether you're in Bratislava or anywhere else in the world, I want you to think about this. Are you using your relative pronouns just to take up space, or are you using them strategically to build powerful, seamless connections in your ideas? Let's make every word count.